We're live, and this is pretty cool. This is the second Moolah Marketers chat about money making. And today I'm going to talk to you guys, or bring to you guys Kathy, who helped us with our first book launch. We launched 2 books, and our first book, we were able to get into the top 500 on Amazon list with Kathy's help, and we ended up selling over, I think like 6 months ago, we were just shy of 100,000. So I'm assuming that we've topped 100,000 since then. They give you updates every 6 months, so I don't know the current exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure we're topping 100,000, and that's thanks to Kathy's help. So I wanted to have Kathy tell us, again, just for my sake, because I want to launch other products, not just books, what she did in a product launch so that I can launch ebooks with the same thing, same process, or get another book out there to a publisher. So Kathy, thank you so much for meeting with us today. And now tell us about you. Aren't you an author with lots of books yourself?
I am. My sixth traditionally published book comes out in January. So I'm a vegan cookbook author, and I also have one ebook that I published last year, and I'm re-promoting, which is the Ghoulish Gourmet Vegan Halloween Cookbook.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that somewhere. You left that in the marketing group for us to promote for you too. That was really cool.
Yeah, and actually I'm supposed to be writing some posts for kids' activities. Holly is gonna.
Good.
Yeah, so that's both of you guys. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm not with that kids' activities blog anymore. I now run One Crazy House. So I was able to launch that. I started the February before last. It was about 18 months, but I started working out full time last January. So it's been insane. It's taken up all my time.
Well, that makes sense. I thought you were doing both, and I thought you were just like more amazing than I could even.
No, not possible. Yeah. It's a lot of fun though. And it's fun growing, you know.
Well, that's, I came to PR like a weird way, and I come to most things kind of backwards. So I was an author, and as you know, and anyone who's traditionally published a book probably in the last 7 years knows, they don't really do a whole lot of PR for you. You end up usually doing a lot of PR yourself or experimenting with things. And so with my first book, it sold a lot. It sold 50,000 copies. So for something so sub-niche, that's really good, because cookbooks usually sell maybe to like 5,000 copies is kind of an average.
Okay.
I don't know what it is necessarily in kids' activities or kids' books. So some of the things that I did, they actually hired me to help some of the other vegan authors. But I just was like, Google sent me some free money. Let me try an ad for my book. Some ad network crept up, so I could put an ad up for 3 months. So I just tried all different things, and that's how I learned, basically. So by the time the person who was there when I did my first book was Will, who started Page Street Publishing. So when he started that, he actually called me to work with him on online PR and work with his authors.
That's great.
Yeah.
So now how did you get, because you weren't originally a blogger, were you?
Well, I had been blogging for 4 months when I got my first book offer. So again, not normal.
4 months. Now that's a great hope for most of the bloggers. So a lot of the bloggers in Moolah Marketers aren't the millions of blog page views that we are, Holly and I might be. But the thing is you can become a published successful author with 4 months of blogging under your belt. That's pretty cool. So what did you do to get to, one, find a book, create your book idea, and to bring it to Will and say, hey, publish me?
Well, what happened is I started my blog because I wanted to do a vegan slow cooking cookbook. And I had really procrastinated it. I was going to do a self-published book, and I didn't do it. So I started a blog so my friends could give me a hard time. Basically, go, you are not doing this. Can you please do what you say you're going to do? And then it was Fairwinds Books had actually been looking for a few months for someone to write a vegan slow cooker book because they thought the time was right. Mm-hmm. And so I was basically the only game in town, but if I hadn't actually gone ahead and started my blog, I was publishing things on like some little mom sites, things that you could contribute recipes to, and that's how they found me. Mm. So I think one of the ways one of the things now about getting a book deal, like being a blogger, I think is a plus now, whereas it wasn't necessarily before, because they know you have an audience, they know you know how to connect with that audience. There are numbers that different ones expect, but you can kind of, if you're really good in Facebook, you don't have to be really good in Pinterest. So you just have to do something and be really connecting with people. The other thing is the idea, and the idea has to be unique or a unique spin on it. And I think that's what can be hard. Like one person asked in the group, what's the one thing that makes a launch bad to good? And honestly, I would say it's the book and the timing of the book. And so
timing.
I was promoting an ice cream book in February a couple of years ago. And no one was really interested, but it came out then. And my advice to the publisher was, yes, it came out too soon. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think it's ever too soon to promote your book.
Yeah.
We can talk about that. But so some success is a little bit like the lottery. It has to be the right book at the right time. Like, who would have ever thought a vegan slow cooker book would have the right moment? But it did.
Yeah. Now, what time of the year did yours post?
It was in the fall.
In the fall? Okay. That's when vegan or slow cookers start perking up in trends.
It is, and in fact, every year it picks up again in the fall.
Wonderful.
So, and actually, all my books have published in the fall except my new one that comes out in January. So I'm a little nervous about that, but it seems like Christmas sales are really good, so people really are spending money. But January can also be really good because people are spending their Christmas money.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you said the difference between flop and fantastic is a great idea and then the timing. Now, here's a question I've had. How do you pitch your great idea to a publisher?
There are two ways you can do it. One is just to actually get a proposal and pitch it straight to the publisher. And I would say if you are working alone with a publisher, be careful about just throwing out any ideas. Like, not if you want to talk about, let's say, a vegan slow cooker book, talk about a vegan slow cooker book, but then don't also go, or I could do a vegan pasta book, or I could do this other thing, because those are ideas that they may use. Mm-hmm. And they're not trying to steal them because you're just having a conversation. So if an idea sparks in there and you don't write it for them, you may not be able to write it for someone else. However, if you have a proposal written out, they can't really take that idea from you.
Okay. So if it's in writing, it's easier for them not to take it, is what you're saying.
Right. And I don't really worry a lot about people taking my ideas, especially if you don't have a book yet. You're just going to be working on this one concept probably. But like Page Street Publishing, as you probably know too, you brainstorm together. And I think you need to be a little cautious because actually the book I'm doing in January was a book I was going to self-publish.
Oh, okay.
But it's all worked out for the best. But I realized, because I have no censor, and I will brainstorm and give it to anyone at any time.
Well, we actually kind of had that issue where we had a book idea. We gave them like 18 ideas because that's the way my brain works. But the thing is, they found other bloggers to write some of those ideas books, which is totally great because that meant I didn't have to write another book. So it wasn't like a bad thing. Does that make sense? It was in both of our interests for.
And it often is. It often is in your best interest. So like a lot of times I'll throw out an idea that, like, I've been trying to get someone to take a Halloween book and no one will do it. But so I'm not really nervous about someone magically doing a Halloween book. But I just think if you don't have that in your head, if you're brand new, you might want to think about that. So writing something and approaching a publisher, and if you're doing that, you're probably going to be approaching smaller publishing houses like maybe Quarry Press or I guess it's Quarto Publishing now. They've changed.
You should, at the end of this call, make a list of those small publishers that people could approach. And now what we did, I've helped 3 or 4 other, actually it's been 6, 7 bloggers now, get their books published. And what I had them do is write the chapter the whole first chapter so that the publisher sees what the actual book is going to look like and format it so it looks like it's a book, and then give them a table of contents when they go to the publisher, because that much information the publisher, and in print, so we don't go back and forth. Do you think that's a good advice strategy?
I do. And one thing that I would encourage everyone to do, so I have an agent. And so my agent is the Lisa Eckes group. So Lisa Eckes and Sally Eckes are my agents. And if you go to the lisaeckesgroup.com, if you go to contact and you go, I'm looking to submit a proposal, they'll actually have a proposal outline. They have something written out that's very detailed.
Okay.
I didn't write a proposal until my fourth book because we were looking to move publishers. So once you have a publisher, oftentimes then you're just talking to them. So Will or someone will be like, hey, what do you want to do now?
Mm-hmm.
And you go, I want to do this. So, but when you're either you don't know anyone, no one's approached you, that's really what you should do. You really should write a proper proposal that usually has, like you're saying, a sample chapter, a table of contents. It's going to be really important. And you could even do a table of contents and maybe like a summary of what each chapter would look like. So you really kind of have to have an idea. Whereas when I got my book, I had 5 months to do 150 recipes.
Whoa. I know Page Street loves their big books.
Yeah, and actually now recipe books are getting smaller again. They're either small or huge. So there's like 1,000 recipe things are popular again, but a lot of contracts are for 80, 75 to 90 recipes. Whereas so every book I've done has gone down recipe-wise a little bit.
That's good. That makes it a lot more doable.
Yeah.
Now here's a question. What are the steps, now that we've gotten the book to the publisher, what are the steps to getting people to see it and buy it?
Okay, and this goes back to my thing, and this is me personally, and I try to encourage all the publishers I work with that it's not too early to promote. It's never too early to promote. So if you're doing a book right now and you're doing some photos for it, Instagram some of that photo shoot. Instagram that recipe that you're testing. If you're a big shot enough to have people photographing you, Instagram them photographing your stuff. Because what you want to do is you really want to engage your raving fans, because your raving fans are going to be, they're the building blocks of your blog, but they're also the building blocks of your book promotion. Because they love you. They're basically your internet family, right? So your grandma's going to buy 3 books, and so will they. And they're going to be the people to pre-order. So I'm a big believer, and with Robert Rose, another publisher, they're like, well, we don't want to start doing anything until a month before it publishes. And there's nothing I can do except tell my client that, well, here's some ways you can get around that. Because as an author, it's important, and it takes more than a month. But in a publisher's way of thinking, they usually give you a month before and a month during launch, and that's when they focus on you. But then they have 100 other books they need to go focus on.
Yeah,
you've got this one book, so you really can be single-minded about it. And what I always do is the moment the book gets listed on Amazon, cover or not. Usually I wait till a cover. This year I did not. And I'm like, look, my book is on Amazon. I'm so excited. You can pre-order it, and here's some of the stuff it's about. I've been teasing you with these photos, and now you know. And so actually with it being a January launch and me being a little nervous about that, I put it out without a cover. And what I did is when I put it on Facebook and Twitter, since I did the photography, I did photos of the recipes. So I was still able to do some good teasers.
Now, here's a question. I know that for us, we struggle with the fact that the publisher didn't want us to use photos from the book anywhere outside of the book. Because people wouldn't necessarily buy the book if they saw a photo that was in the book. So what did you do about promoting it when you couldn't necessarily use the photos or the information from the book?
It can be a little different with a cookbook.
Okay.
They don't mind as much the photos, but since I took the photos, I mean, honestly, I could use ones from the book or one that I did not put in the book that was of the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think with kids' activities. I mean, were they all step-by-step photos? Is that?
No, not really.
I don't know. See, I would have fought for you for some of that.
It's, but honestly, that's actually why I'm probably not writing another book, because I make more money off that same content on my blog. So if you can't have it in both places, well, then guess which one wins?
Well, and the thing is, too, there are two things I want to say from that. One is, in general, people are not going to want you to have your content in the book and on your blog.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people who have recipe blogs are saying things like, I just want to use half the content from my blog. And I'm like, then you probably need to self-publish. And that's
publishing. Yeah.
And that's a valid thing to do, and it depends on why you want it. Because I know some other lifestyle mom bloggers who do have content in a book and on their site, and their people are fine with it. Sometimes with recipes, it can be a little hinky. You have to be careful.
Yeah.
And the second thing that brings up is that you are probably not going to make your $1 million writing a book. So if you're looking at writing a traditionally published book, for sure, because I mean, you typically think you might get $1 a copy sold, and you will get an advance, and it can be anywhere from $2,000 to $200,000, which probably most people won't see. You know, the Kim Kardashians of the world will get something, giant. If you're with a smaller publisher, you're going to get a smaller advance. There's a vegan publisher, Vegan Heritage Press. So they do the smallest advances, but they tend to do more on royalty numbers. And so you earn your money out. So like, if you get a $200,000 advance, and life is magical for you, until you sell like 200,000 books, you're not going to earn any more money. So typically, when you're with a larger publisher and you're getting that larger number, they're thinking they're never giving you any more money. In their minds, they might. If you sell 2 million books, they're happy to send you royalties twice a year. But if you get a smaller advance, then your royalties will probably be larger.
Okay.
They'll come in a little bit. I still get royalties from the Vegan Slow Cooker, and I think I published that like 7 years ago.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and part of it was because my advance was low.
Yeah.
But it's kind of nice to get a little money trickling in now and again. Now, the reasons to write a book, so we know it's not to be a millionaire, but one of them is it really does establish you as an expert in your field. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's true. Like, if you think of yourself, like, I love bookstores. So I go in bookstores and I just feel like I'm surrounded by all this knowledge. I've always felt that way. And it's a little disheartening when you realize as soon as you write a book, it doesn't matter if you're super smart or not, people still feel like that about you. But it's really great for your resume. It's great as a blogger to also be able to say you're a traditionally published author. And I do make a difference between traditionally published and self-published, and we can talk about that too. But it does give you a boost. Bloggers are getting more legitimized across the field right now, so it's not as bad as I think maybe 15 years ago or 10 years ago when you were a blogger. God forbid you blogged about mom stuff, and it makes me so sad because people would get all snooty about it. I'm sure it was. That's a mommy blogger. It's like, we all have things to contribute. And I do think that a lot of book publishers are going towards bloggers, because they really are a big source of income. They already have a platform, and a platform was something that in your proposal we'll talk about what's your platform, and it may be like for you, I have 3 million visitors a month. Well, you don't need to say anything else. Me, I have like 90,000 visitors a month. So maybe it's good for them to know that I do really well with Pinterest too.
Yeah.
So those are the sorts of things that you might do. Traditionally published books, typically give you a little more time than self-publishing. Some of that changes.
Are you hearing me okay? I feel like we're cutting in and out. Are you cutting in and out, or do you hear me cutting in and out?
I was hearing some noise in your background.
Okay, I'm gonna move outside. That way we can keep hearing. Starbucks is getting a little loud. Sorry guys, I'm so sorry. Give me 30 seconds and I will be out of the hair here. And hopefully it'll be quieter out there. I'm coming. Sorry guys. And this is why I love working from home. Because you can just do things wherever, right? Okay, I'm at the outside spot, and hopefully no trucks will drive by.
I have the dogs downstairs, so I'm hoping they don't bark loud enough that you can hear them up here.
Yeah. Okay, so you were telling us about the differences of promoting yourself and how to make sure that your content is original, and then we started cutting out.
Okay. Let's see. And I was also talking a little bit about traditionally published books versus self-publishing. And I personally think they're both super valid. But just realize there are a few things, like if you're writing your first book and it's a self-published book, if you send out a press release to newspapers, they're not going to care as much.
Okay.
It's going to be a little harder to get that kind of outside press. However, it's not hard to get blogger press.
Yeah, true.
You can still do a blog tour. You can still do an affiliate program. You have a lot of things that you can do still that you would do in a traditional book launch.
And you might even have more money to be able to put into them because your returns are more.
Oh, yeah. So, for instance, I think my new book is like $22.99. And again, the percentage is off of what the publisher sells it for, not for what someone buys it for. So it's like, what, $11 probably or something like that. So that's what my percentage, like my 10 or 12% comes out of, which is very tiny.
Yeah.
Whereas if I sell my Halloween book for $8.99, I've last year already made the $500 back that I spent on editing. I had it professionally edited. I had a friend who laid it out. That should have been another $1,000, but he did not charge me. So if I sell it myself, I make $8.99, and I'm selling it through eJunkie.com. And so I think I pay them like $5 a month. And
it's cheap.
If you sold it on your blog, right, and I am doing 50% split, then I get $4.50, which is still 4 times better than a traditionally published book. So money-wise, I think you can make much more money doing a self-published niche book than you can, because like I said, they don't want to publish Halloween books. What else do they not want? You know, like if you do kids stuff, maybe a kid's Halloween costume book would be the book for you to do, or now
you can do ebooks and also actually publish your book though too, right?
You mean with a traditional publisher?
No, like you put it in print. I know Amazon has print on demand, and a couple other, I know there's other places where you can basically say, okay, I need 100 books of those this month, or I need 200 more, and then print by the batches of 200 or 500 or something, and sell them as you get them.
I think that CreateSpace does it on demand, so it's just somebody orders. Okay. I think you have to set it up, and I don't know if there's a cost involved setting it up.
Okay.
I do have a friend who did self-publish a book, and she actually got it to the publisher and bought her like 2,000 copies, and she just sells it herself. So that's something else you can do. So the benefit of going with a traditional publisher over self-publishing is that you really don't have to put very much money into it when you're traditionally publishing, because they're hiring the editors. They're paying for the photography or giving you a photography budget. So all those things are taken care of. If you're doing it yourself, you have to think, who's going to edit this? And everyone isn't like me, but I'm why editors were invented. I couldn't possibly put out a book that's not edited, because it's hard enough when it goes through 4 or 5 edits. You know, and there's still we're going through some things and they left out a recipe. None of us noticed till now.
Yeah, totally.
And it seems like such a silly thing, but like, so I think editing is really important. And if you have a friend who's really good at editing and maybe you can get a couple people to look at it, that would probably be okay for a small ebook. For me, people are already expecting it to look professionally edited because
Yes.
I have these other books and they're expecting that a similar level of quality from me. And if I don't meet it, then I won't be able to sell. And the same thing, like if you're doing a cookbook or having recipes involved, and I know not everyone here does food, you need to have those recipes tested. And that's kind of a whole different subject, and if people are interested in that, I'm happy to talk about how I do it. I have a team of testers that I've been using forever.
Oh, they tested for you?
Oh, yeah. So some of my testers have been with me for 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
And they've
Fascinating.
Yeah, they're amazing, and it's a volunteer thing.
Oh, wow. That's really sweet. I love it.
Yeah, and so I would think with something too, though, like if you did a kids activity book or something that would be like sewing or step-by-step instructions, anything that you start out with some instructions, you're explaining things, and then there's going to be this finished product, I would think you would need the same kind of testing. And if you're doing anything like that, try to get someone who's just learning how to sew and someone who can sew. They can look at Vogue and then they can make it. So, because what you'll get is 2 different sets of questions. And I always try to get people who are not vegan. So I have some non-vegan people, I have some gluten-free people, I have some non-oil people. I try to have all the questions I'm going to encounter. And then for me, like if one of my no-oil people, because there's no-oil vegan is kind of a thing, they will often make an adaptation of a recipe, and what I do is I will put that in the book and credit them for it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that, I'm not stealing their idea, but they're helping their community, and so that way I can do that. So the same thing with sewing. I would probably ask like the most stupid question, like, well, what does that word mean? What thing in the sewing machine is that? And because when you've done something so many times, you forget some of those steps, no matter how detail-oriented you are.
Yeah. No, that's really great. We probably should have had a testers for some of ours for sure. Now, you said Create Space is where you self-publish a book, and eJunkie is where you put ebooks up. Is there any other places that you tend to go to as places to get your stuff out there if you don't have a traditional publisher?
I looked at a few different places last year, and eJunkie seemed to be the easiest because you could do an affiliate program really easily with them. But I think there's several. Like if you look up, I think if you go on pinchofyum.com, or actually probably even better, if you go to veganhalloweencookbook.com, click on affiliate, and I'm not trying to do this to get you to go there, but I have the actual link to the Pinch of Yum affiliate information. So if you have trouble signing up, go here because they did a whole step-by-step. And I think in there they talk about a couple of others that they looked at.
Awesome. That's good to know.
But you can, I think there's even a plugin if you wanted to do it on your own site. But
I used that plugin once. I can't remember the name of it. But I will try to find that plugin because I have used it. And figure out what I did for it.
What's super good about eJunkie, and one of the reasons I chose them, even though it costs $5 a month, is I can put all my affiliates in there. They can sign up through it. I don't have to deal with it. I can add a general percentage, and then, for instance, like the person who designed it, I can add an extra 25 or 30%. So any book she sells, she gets more money than anybody else.
Oh, good. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and then instead of me having to keep track of all that, eJunkie keeps track of it, and I can just PayPal the individual people through there.
Terrific. I had another question. You had mentioned press reports earlier. What do you do to get books into the press? Oops, and here comes a truck. Sorry, guys. It's loud.
Well, a lot of the press is traditionally done by traditional PR. So that would be someone like Trina Kane that you worked with in the first book. So what they do is they have this big giant database, and as bloggers, we all get stuff from PR people because we're in the big giant database. And it's not necessarily very personal, but the newspapers and magazines can sometimes respond to that. If you want to get in a magazine, you've got to send them information like 6 months ahead of time is the best time to try, because they're publishing, so their schedule goes 6 months to a year ahead of where we are right now. And that's often why it's hard for traditional publishers to get anything there. I'm working with an author, her book launches in October. They're still working on the finals. So they can't send anything out.
Yeah, totally.
So if you're working on yourself, you still can do a press release, or you could hire a traditional PR person to do a press release, because the database is like, I don't even know. They don't tell you any prices. And usually 2 or 3 PR people will split a subscription to the database. So I'm assuming it's thousands and thousands of dollars.
Wow.
So that's not really doable, but what is doable is go and look, do searches and see who wrote about books that are like yours. I know.
And then reach out to them.
Right, what your local press, your local TV stations, and things like that. So start local and then get bigger. If you have a connection, that's a whole different deal. So like, I have no shame in asking people if they know someone, and sometimes that's how I've been in the Washington Post a few times. My recipes and a couple.
Wow.
Is my agent knows that person, and actually I met Joe Yonan as well, and that doesn't hurt. And you know what? I'll send him any kind of weird stuff. I sent him about the Halloween book, expecting him not to print it, but you never know. Whereas Grant Butler from the Oregonian, he's interviewed me probably for every book that I've done. He's a vegan as well, so even though he's the food editor, he has a vegan slant. I sent him the Halloween book, and he printed it all over.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so you kind of have to have a personal relationship if you have a self-published book that you want to get going, unless it's really something timely that stands out. Like, I know, sous vide seems to be pretty big. Instant pots are really big. If it's something that's really going on that they don't have a lot of information about, and you go, hey, I'm an expert, and what you need to do is provide them a cover of the book, a little bio about yourself, a picture of you, a little write-up about the book. If there is a craft or a recipe, have that with step-by-step photos. Send all of that. That way, maybe they've already filled up today, but maybe something gets yanked out. And if it gets yanked out, and they have all the stuff they need right there, they don't even need to talk to you. You're much more likely to get in somewhere.
Oh, great. Good to know. Well, thank you, Kathy. And you said to think promoting about 6 months ahead of time when you work with newspapers, and to have relationships with it. And the flop to fantastic was having the idea and the time of the launch. So again, you talked about the newspaper and starting a launch ahead of time. So timing is very important, sounds like.
Right. It's magazines, not newspapers, that you need to think 6 months ahead.
Okay, 6 months of magazines. Okay, change that.
When the Halloween issue of Better Homes and Gardens came out probably last month, it was done a long time ago.
Okay, cool. Good to see. Okay, well, thank you for your time, and please leave links in the group to all the places where we can, the small publishers that would be interested in publishing bloggers' books, because I know there's some out there for those who want to be traditionally published.
Yeah, and if you guys want to ask more questions in the group, please do. Or if you want to tell me what kind of book you're trying to write, because I don't know about all kinds of book publishing. So maybe I can help you find something specific.
Yeah.
And I'm always there. I'm always happy to answer any questions.
And I know that you totally rock the socks off a launch. So if anyone is launching even an ebook or something and wants some guidance, I'm sure you are the person to go to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm going to let you go because we're, one, an ambulance is coming by, and two, got things to do. But I appreciate the time that you took for us today.
Oh, always. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.